comments publicly?
I haven't seen his comments publicly.
Is there anything more that you'd like to add in the conversation to that?
There's nothing more I'd like to add to that.
Wow. And again, words on paper versus seeing the delivery, it's always different. And Tua, I mean, the stuff last week, it really was stunning to see the candor, to hear him refer to Brian Flores as a terrible person as part of those comments, and to see Flores, who I thought was affected by it, and in a positive way, that the criticism, he took it to heart, and he's trying to grow and he's trying to develop. I mean, he seemed rattled. He seemed shaken at times last week. And it's odd to me. It reminds me of when there was all the talk about Tom Brady going to Miami, and Tua acted like he wasn't paying any attention to that, and he had the timeline all off. He didn't realize, no, Tua, 2022, you were going to get thrown overboard for Tom Brady. You don't realize that? We're not talking about before you were drafted. We're talking about after you played for the team for 2 years. You don't get that? I feel like he stays consciously ignorant of things so he can be dismissive of them. Because why wouldn't he want to see what Brian Flores had to say? Why wouldn't he want to see how the guy that tormented him in his mind reacted to the tormentee fighting back? So that just seems odd to me that Tua wouldn't have been at least curious to hear and see what Brian Flores had to say.
Yeah, I thought that was a conscious effort of, I'm not talking about it. He saw, like, there's no way this day and age he didn't see what Brian Flores said about him. And I have to say, in this conversation, like, I obviously played for Flo. He was my safety coach. But even bigger than that, for me, why I knew that really hurt him was because of the relationship we had. I've been to Flo's house for holidays. I've eaten with his family. I've gotten to know his twin brothers, his younger brothers, his mom and his dad through the years. So we had a very close relationship. And he was a guy that I watched and I looked up to simply because of what he did as a husband and a father. So I think to see what Tua said about him, that has to hurt you. And I think people have to understand, in New England, we all watched the head coach go directly at his star quarterback, Tom Brady, and that's what brought the best out of Brady, and it brought the best out of the team. And I think Flo's mindset going to Miami was to try to do that with Tua. And I think obviously he even said it in so many words of, it didn't go as planned. The way everything kind of happened with Tua, and I don't think people should say Tua needs to toughen up. Like, when you go through that, only you understand and experience that. It's hard for any of us to say he should have done this or he should have done that. It didn't work out. It didn't work out for Tua. It didn't work out for Flo, because Flo bases what he does on player relationship. He said that. So I thought it was awesome, his growth from it. I do think Tua saw it. I'm interested to see at some point, does Tua feel comfortable maybe on a podcast or something like that to dive back into this? But I understand it's that point in the season where everything needs to be moving forward. Forget all the other stuff. Let's focus on the season.
I don't want to make excuses for Brian Flores, but I am persuaded to at least try to explain what I think happened, because his response was so real and organic and emotional to what Tua had said. He didn't just brush it off and refuse to talk about it and act like he hadn't heard it, or, say I'm only here to talk about the team I'm currently with or anything like that. He gave a real answer. I think it's a combination of where you grew up as a coach, because he saw Bill Belichick, as you said, do that to Tom Brady. Now, should he have realized this isn't working on Tua? Yes, but he was caught in a very dysfunctional organization. This is reason number two. You've got an absentee landlord who runs the team in Stephen Ross. He lives in New York. He's not down there. They've had all sorts of issues over the years. Mr. Kraft's in the building all the time in New England. He's around. Ownership is there, even if they're not meddling, and there's different schools of thought on whether or not they do post-Belichick. But even if they're not meddling, they're there. They're present. You don't have, the cat's away, the mice do play thing, where you've got all sorts of infighting and Brian Flores feels like he's on this sinking ship and he wants Deshaun Watson and he can't get Deshaun Watson. And I think it all just combined into a stew that was destined to be full of rancid meat and dumped on the ground, and everybody was going to be gone. And Tua would have been gone too. That was the grand plan. Sean Payton and Tom Brady. Move on from Flores, move on from Tua, and apparently Tua never understood that, or he did, and he just refuses to acknowledge it. So it was just a bad situation for everybody. And I think he decided, this isn't my guy. This isn't my guy. And maybe in the future, once he has a guy like that around, he'll realize I still can't treat him maybe the way I treated him once I came to the conclusion he's not my guy.
Okay, you have a chance to win $1 million in the NBC sweepstakes on Yahoo Fantasy. Just download the redesigned Yahoo Fantasy app or go to NBCSports.com/fantasymillion for additional details. What are you waiting for?
Hi, it's Mike Florio. Thanks for watching PFT on YouTube. Hit subscribe for the latest news and analysis from Pro Football Talk.